a fruitful bow by well. Right. When the Spaniards came over and conquered Puerto Rico, it was called Puerto Riches. Why? Because the Puerto Ricans on the island Puerto Rico, they was very wealthy before the Spaniards came over, whose branches run over the wall. It was so many so-called Puerto Ricans. When the Spaniards came over to dwell, Ephraimites, Puerto Rico was repopulating so much because they the largest tribe in Israel that they began to mix amongst the Spaniards. The archers have surely grieved him and shot at him and hated him. Right? The Puerto Ricans and the Spaniards mixed amongst each other. But his bow, a bow and the strength and the arm of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Right? Because the Lord caused Ephraim to the Puerto Ricans to still be very fruitful. Even by the power of thy Father shall he help thee, and by the Almighty who shall bless thee with the blessings of heaven above. Right? The land of Puerto Rico is very fruitful. Even they fruitful. Blessing of the deep that lie under the blessing of the breast and of the womb. The blessings of the breast and of the womb. The Puerto Ricans is the largest tribe in Israel. They damn near a nation. But they not. They a tribe. The blessing of thy father hath prevailed above the blessing of thy progenitors. Because he got the blessing of the firstborn. Because Reuben lost it. That's why the Ephraimites, so many of them, that's why they have Puerto Rican Day parades and pride. Because Ephraim is a cake not turned. In Hosea 7 and 8, Ephraim is a cake not turned. So Ephraimites mixed amongst the Spaniards. That's why they got lighter. Because a cake not turned, you got dark on this side, you got the light brown on this side. Because Puerto Ricans like that. They got dark brown Puerto Ricans and light brown Puerto Ricans. Different shades of brown. So-called Puerto Ricans. They the tribe of Ephraim. The blessing of thy father, they shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. Right? Because the story when Joseph was sold to Egypt, Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. Right? If you ever heard some Benjamites, that's the so-called Jamaicans. Benyamians in the Hebrew. Benji, they raven. It's different songs they speak about Babylon. Like Bob Marley, he wasn't a Benjamite, but he thought he was a Jamaican, but his father was white, and he spoke a lot of things like long time way down in the Babylon. Like we've been long time, because they knew in the scripture that Babylon is America, according to Revelations 18, that Babylon is the sinful kingdom, America, because it's confusion. Babel, the root word, which means confusion, because America got a bunch of confusion in it, a bunch of abomination, transgression of the law. It's totally confusing. Mixed nations, the melting pot, all nations, that's confusion. Benjamin shall raise him as a wolf. Right? The Benjamites. They sung songs like different men of Jamaica. They sung songs like long time. We've taken from Africa, brought to America, to the Caribbean, stuff like that. Brought to Babylon, long time. We've been down in the Babylon, because they knew in the scripture that America is Babylon. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night shall he divide the spoil. Right, that's Benjamites, the so-called Jamaicans. So explain the lost tribes of Israel. And you got and Deuteronomy 33. Deuteronomy 33. Deuteronomy 33. Deuteronomy 33. Manasseh. Manasseh is the so-called Cubans. Manasseh. And the chief things of the ancient, the precious, Salakia. His glory is like the firstling of his bullock, and the horns are like the horns of unicorns. When with them shall he push the people together to the ends of the earth, and they are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh. Right, Manasseh is the so-called Cubans, and Ephraim is the so-called Puerto Rican. They got the same type of flag. The same flag, it's just different color. Same flag, Ephraim, because they got the same father, Joseph. They was branched in. And that's the lost tribes of Israel. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is it, that their father spoke unto them and blessed them. Everyone according to his blessing, he blessed them. So Reuben explained it. Reuben is the Seminole Indians, so-called Seminole Indians, Reubenites, according to the Bible, the tribe of Israel, the lost tribes of Israel. Simeon, the so-called Dominicans. Levi, the so-called Haitians. Judah, the so-called African-American Negroes. Zebulon, the so-called Guatemalans to Panama of Negro and Indian descent. Issachar, the so-called Mexicans. Gad, the so-called Native American Indians. Asher, the so-called Colombians to Uruguay. Naphtali, the so-called Argentinians to Chaldean. Ephraim, the so-called Puerto Ricans. Manasseh, the so-called Cubans. And Benjamin, the so-called West Indians, Jamaicans. And the last scripture for Judah in Jeremiah 14:2 talk about Judah, the Jews. What color are the Jews? In Jeremiah 14:2. Judah mourning, right? The real Jews in the state of mourning. They the Jews is the Jewish people who call themselves Jews, like Revelation 2:9 and say, I know thou works in tribulation, but thou art rich. But I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, and they are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. They own the diamond districts. They funded the slave trade for the real Jews to go through slavery, to be brought and put in hard bondage, to be murdered and raped, so they can call their nationality after the greatest people that ever walked the face of the earth. Judah mourned in the gates thereof languished. They are black unto the ground. Right, black in Hebrew is kadar, which means dark skin. Because nobody in the earth black. Black, the color black. No. Nobody black in the earth. They are dark unto the ground. Different shades of brown. You dig into the ground. Not the concrete gray, no. Dumbass, the ground, the dirt under the ground. Dark unto the ground. Different shades of brown. So the Jews, Judah, the Jews who say they're Jews, they are imposters. And the cry of Jerusalem is going up. Right. Because the Jews call out to the Most High in the last days. Because we rising. The nation of Israel, the lost tribes of Israel has been found. Shalom.